All right, so I'm going to carry on with the speed, distance, and time formulas, which we remember using this triangle here, Dad's silly triangle, to get anything you kind of, whatever you're looking for, you cover it up in the triangle. So if you're looking for speed, cover it up. Speed is distance over time. If you're looking for time, cover it up. Time is distance divided by speed. If you're looking for distance, cover it up. Speed and time are on the same level, so you multiply those is how you use that triangle. As I said, you need to learn those three formulas. A lot of people find the triangle handy enough way of doing that. In the last video, I set up all those questions and all the examples I did and all the questions I would have given you to do after to have whole number answers for time in particular. So the answer will be 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, or it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours in the question. You are never dealing with and minutes. Okay? And that's what I'm going to look at today. And the reason I put it in a separate video is it does throw people a little bit, and it is just a little complication for when you're using the formulas. All right. So let's look at this first example here. A van travels 320 kilometers in 4 hours and 30 minutes. What was its average speed? Give your answer to one decimal place. So speed is distance divided by time. So always write down the formula that you're using. So in this example here, distance is 320 kilometers, but time is 4 hours and 30 minutes. So how do I put and 30 minutes into this formula? Okay, well, you're only allowed to put hours into the formula. You cannot put and minutes is in. So you have to find some way of writing 4 hours and 30 minutes just in terms of hours. Okay, so basically as a decimal hour, so it will be 4 point something hours. So this one kind of might seem a bit obvious to people. How much of an hour is 30 minutes? 30 minutes is half an hour. Okay, what's half as a decimal? It's 0.5. So 4 hours and 30 minutes is 4.5. And that's what I need to put into that formula. So it's decimal hours you need to put in for time in these formulas. You cannot put in and minutes, okay? But I'm just going to return to that example, all right, in a minute. Over here then, how long would it take a car to complete a journey of 286 kilometers, traveling at an average speed of 55 kilometers per hour? Give your answer in hours and minutes. So how long would it take? It's time I'm looking for here. Time is distance divided by speed. So my distance here is 286 kilometers. My speed is 55. So far, so good. Let's do that on the calculator. 286 divided by 55, and that is 5.2 hours. Okay, so that's what I would refer to as decimal hours. Okay, now the question says give your answer in hours and minutes. So you're going to get most of the marks for getting the 5.2 hours, but to get full marks, you need to change that into hours and minutes. Well, it's obviously going to be 5 hours and how many minutes? So what's 0.2 of an hour in minutes? Okay, and the classic mistake people will make here is they will say it's 2 minutes or maybe it's 20 minutes. Okay, but it's not. Okay, why is 0.2 of an hour not 2 minutes or 20 minutes? Well, it's because there's not 100 minutes in an hour. Okay, if there was 100 minutes in an hour, then yeah, 0.2 would be 20 minutes, but there's not. Okay, there's 60 minutes in an hour. So I need to do something else to go from 0.2 hours into minutes. All right, so I'll finish that off in a second. I'll return to that one in a second. and do a couple more examples, but I just want to focus in on that for a minute. Going between decimal hours and minutes. Okay, so hours and minutes, something like 4 hours and 30 minutes, which we said was 4.5 hours. Okay, so it's just kind of working out how we do that every single time. It's maybe not as obvious to us as and 30 minutes. Over here, the 0.2 hours, we're maybe not too sure. That's decimal hours. How do I change that into hours and minutes? Okay, so it's decimal hours that need to go into these formulas, and it's decimal hours which come out of these formulas, and you might want to change them into hours and minutes. So let's say that happens. Let's say you get decimal hours out of a formula. You do the formula for time, and you get 0.5 hours as your answer, and you're asked to give that in hours and minutes. Well, it's 0 hours, and then 0.5 of an hour. 0.5 is a half. So what's half an hour in minutes? It's 30 minutes. Okay? And you might be able to do that one in your head and just know, yeah, 0.5 is 30 minutes. The way to kind of do it, which will work for every single one that you're going to do, and some of the more less obvious ones that I see later, is you multiply 0.5 by how many minutes in an hour. So you multiply 0.5 by 60. So 0.5 multiplied by 60. And there's my 30 minutes. As I said, we might have been able to get that one handy enough in our heads, but that's how we did it. So 0.5 multiplied by 60. The answer to that one is 30 minutes. Okay? 1 hour, 1.25 hours. What's that in hours and minutes? Well, it is 1 hour and something minutes. Okay? What is 0.25 of an hour? 0.25 is a quarter. And how many minutes in quarter of an hour? Again, this might be one we just know. It's 15 minutes. Okay, a quarter of an hour is 15 minutes. So the answer to that is 1 hour and 15 minutes. Again, our kind of foolproof way that will work every single time. If you do 0.25 multiplied by 60, and you do that on your calculator, you get 15. So 1 hour and 15 minutes is your answer. Okay, so it's only that 0.25 that you multiply by 60. You don't need to multiply the 1 by it. 1.25 hours is obviously 1 hour and something. Okay, so it's just the bit after the decimal point I'm worried about here. 1.75 hours, so it's 1 point. So again, the answer is going to be 1 hour and something minutes. 0.75, you might know, is 3/4. What's 3/4 of an hour? You might know 3/4 of an hour is 45 minutes. So 1 hour and 45 minutes. Again, if you want to just check that, it will just be the 0.75 multiplied by 60. So on my calculator, 0.75 multiplied by 60. And there's the 45 that I was expecting. Okay, the next one then. All right, so these last three then mightn't come as kind of obvious to us. 0.15 hours. Okay, well, the mistake not to make here is that is not 15 minutes. Okay, in the same way that 0.5 hours was not 50 or 5 minutes, 0.25 was not 25 minutes, 0.75 was not 75 minutes, 0.15 hours is not 15 minutes. What do you need to do? You need to do the 0.15 multiplied by 60, and that's 9 minutes. So 0.15 of an hour is just 9 minutes. Next one then, 1.33 hours. This one we might know, because we might kind of recognize 0.33 as being 1/3. We might know what 1/3 of an hour is, but let's do this one on the calculator. So 1.33 hours is obviously going to be 1 hour and then just something minutes. So what's the 0.33? So 0.33 multiplied by 60. You find it's 19.8. So I'm going to say that this question may be said to the nearest minute. So 19.8 to the nearest minute is 20 minutes. Okay. So 0.33 multiplied by 60, and then I just rounded up to the nearest full minute. 3.8 hours then. So 3.8 hours is obviously going to be 3 hours and something. So what's 0.8 hours in minutes? You get 0.8 of 60, so you multiply 0.8 by 60, and you get 48 minutes. So 3.8 hours is 48 minutes. Okay, and as I said, the reason we do this is if you use the time formula, it is going to give you an answer which looks like this. Okay, so that formula is going to spit out an answer with decimals in it, and you will often be asked to change that into hours and minutes. Okay, so again, if it's 3.8, it is definitely going to be 3 hours, and so you don't need to worry about the 3. You just need to worry about the 0.8, okay? And what you do is you multiply it by 60. So calculator told me that was 48. So 3.8 hours, 3 hours and 48 minutes, okay? We also need to be able to go the other way then, okay? So we saw this in the first example I was looking at, okay? Where I said the time was 4 hours and 30 minutes, okay? But we can't put and 30 into that formula. We need to put something like this, basically. We need to put something with a decimal in it into the formula, okay? So I'll start out again with a few that we might be able to do in our heads, or we might not, and then a few there in the end, which we probably wouldn't, okay? So 15 minutes, okay? What's 15 minutes? 15 minutes is a quarter of an hour. So what's a quarter as a decimal? It's 0.25. So 15 minutes would be 0.25 hours. Okay, so if your time for the question was 15 minutes, you need to put 0.25 into the formula. Okay, because that formula is always looking for like kilometers per hour. Okay, if you're looking for speed, now we're looking for per minute. So that's why we need to get it into hours. How would I do it then? Maybe if I didn't realize 15 minutes a quarter an hour, that's 0.25. Well, how many minutes are there in a full hour? There's 60. Okay, so you put the 15 over 60. Okay, so you get it as a fraction, 15 over 60, and then change that into a decimal. So just do 15 over 60 on your calculator equals, it tells you 1/5. That's it, sorry. 15 over 60 equals, and it tells me it's a quarter. Just press change, and there's my 0.25. All right, 1 hour and 30 minutes. Okay, so again, this is one where you don't need to worry about the hours. It's definitely going to be 1 point something. It's just the 30 minutes that you need to worry about. What's 30 minutes as a decimal of an hour? Again, this is one where we might say 30 minutes is half an hour, so this is 1.5. If you didn't realize that, or you're maybe rushing through the exam and you kind of forgot that, or you didn't rank it. So the 30 minutes over 60 minutes in a full hour, and if you do that on a calculator, 30 either over 60, or you can press divided by 60, we'll do the same thing, equals a half, change 0.5. You could put it into the formula as a half as well, but that's just harder to enter on the calculator, so I think 0.5. So you've already got from 1 hour, 1 point, and then 30 minutes is 0.5 hours. Okay, 3 hours and 40 minutes, so it's going to be 3 point something. What's 40 minutes as a decimal of an hour? So 40 minutes over 60 minutes in a full hour. So 40 divided by 60 is 2/3, which is 0.66666. I would say just go to 2 decimal places here is going to get you close enough to the answer. So 0.67, rounding that off. All right, the next one then, 25 minutes. So again, the mistake not to make is not to say that's 0.25 hours. It's not. 15 minutes is 0.25 hours. So what you need to do, you need to put the 25 minutes over 60. 25 divided by 60 is 5/12. Press change. Again, 2 decimal places is going to be enough, so I'm going to say 0.42, just rounding to 2 decimal places. So 0.42 hours. Next one then, 1 hour and 10 minutes. Well, it's going to be 1 hour, so it's going to be 1 point something. 10 minutes then. So 10 over 60. 10 over 60 equals, so sorry, 10 over 60 equals 1/6. Press change, 0.166. As I say, 2 decimal places is going to be enough for these. So 166 is going to round up to 0.17. So 1 hour and 10 minutes then is 1.17 hours. 2 hours and 55 minutes is obviously going to be 2 point something. So let's worry about the 55 minutes here. So 55 over 60 is what? 55 over 60 is equal to 11 over 12. So press change. 0.916. So again, I'm just going to go to 2 decimal places here. Will be enough in these questions. So 2.92. And that's ours. Okay, so look, that's just something we need to be able to do these speed, distance, and time questions quite often. Okay, often enough you'll get questions which are like the ones we did last week, where it was kind of whole numbers. You don't need to worry about this, but sometimes you will need to do this type of stuff here. Okay, so I'll just go back to the examples then I was doing on this page here. So the very first example I started with, so van travels 320 kilometers in 4 hours and 30 minutes. What was its average speed? So I said speed is distance divided by time. So distance here was 320 kilometers. Time was 4 hours and 30 minutes. So I need to put this in as 4 point something. Okay. Again, as I've said a few times now, 30 minutes, you might just know that that's a half. So a half is 0.5. So this must be 0.5. If that doesn't kind of come to you, you put the 30 minutes over the 60 minutes in a full hour. And if you put 30 divided by 60 into your calculator, you'll get 0.5. Okay, so 4.5 is your time. So to get the speed then, 320 divided by 4.5, that's 71 and 1/9. It says give your answer to 1 decimal place, so press change, and it's a 71.111. So that's equal to 71.1, and your units kilometers per hour. All right. The next question then here. So the next week the van takes 10 minutes longer to make the same journey. Okay. What was its average speed? So it's speed again, which is distance over or divided by time. Distance, it's the same journey. So the journey is still 320 kilometers. And it takes 10 minutes longer, so it must take 4 hours and 40 minutes. So that's 4 point something. What's 40 minutes as a decimal of an hour? So you put the 40 minutes over 60 minutes in an hour. 40 divided by 60 is 2/3, which is 0.66666666. Look, you could write it as 0.66666 and stop at a certain point, but I would say 2 decimal places is going to be enough in these questions. So 4.67 hours. Okay, so what was its average speed? 320 divided by 4.67. 68.52. So to 1 decimal place is what I'm told to do is 68.5. Does that make sense compared to my previous answer? Yes, it does. Okay, it took me longer to do the journey, so I must have been going slower. So 71 down to 68. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Finishing this one off over here that I started then a few minutes ago now. So how long would it take a car to complete this journey? So how long is time? Time is distance divided by speed. So distance in this question was 286. Speed was 55. That gave me 5.2 when I divided it. And I said, if I want to give that in hours and minutes, 5.2 hours is obviously 5 hours and something minutes. The mistake not to make is to say 0.2, oh, that's 2 minutes or 20 minutes. Okay, take your time. 0.2, what's that? Well, what you need to do to go from decimal hours into minutes is 0.2 multiplied by 60 this time. Okay, so 0.2 multiplied by 60 is 12. So 5.2 hours is 5 hours and 12 minutes. All right. So look, You're either dividing or you're multiplying by 60. Okay, so the minutes you divide by 60, and that's what goes after the decimal point, or else it's what's after the decimal point multiplied by 60, and that gives you the number of minutes. Okay, so it's multiplied or divided by 60. But just the bit after the decimal point, or just the minutes. The hours kind of deal with themselves. Last example then I'm going to do, how far would a car travel in 2 hours and 45 minutes at an average speed of 80 kilometers per hour? So how far, this is looking for distance. Distance is equal to speed multiplied by time. Okay, so the other ones are more obvious because they're over, and over means divide, but when you're looking for distance and these two are on the same level, speed multiplied by time gives you distance. So distance is speed multiplied by time. So speed in this question is 80 multiplied by time. So I can't write 2 hours and 45 minutes. It's always decimal hours that needs to go into these questions. So 2 hours and, it's obviously going to be 2 point something. What's 45 minutes as a decimal? So some people might rack that as being 3/4 of an hour and realize it themselves, but if you didn't, the way to do it is 45 minutes over 60. 45 over 60 equals 45, over 60 is 3/4. Press change, 0.75, so 0.75. So 2 hours and 45 minutes is 2.75 hours. So do your multiplying then. 80 multiplied by 2.75, 220. So kilometers per hour, how far? So my answer must be kilometers. Okay, so speed, distance, and time formulas with the slight added kind of wrinkle or difficulty that my time is not a whole number. Okay, I have to deal with decimal hours, or I have to deal with minutes.